Let's take an early look at number 3 seed Boise State playing Penn State in the Fiesta Bowl. What's up, kid folk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching the number 1 college football show, please hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and like this video so you don't miss any of the segments that we upload here each and every day. We take a hard look at college football. We love to talk about college football, and go ahead and leave a comment down below. What do you think the score is going to be at the end of Boise State, Penn State? As I think we're going to see one of the best rushing tandems, if not the best rushing tandem in the entire sport, play against what is the best tailback in the entire sport in something like a pitcher's duel. But I think we're going to know where the edge is here, even as we're talking about a 3 seed Boise State that won the Mountain West Championship and whose best win isn't actually a win at all. It is a game in which they lost on the last play of the game, a field goal that Oregon needed to make at Oregon to beat Boise State and Ashton, Janty, and the Broncos. Not coincidentally, in that game, Ashton Janty ran for 192 yards on the ground. He's averaged just that over the course of an entire season, 192 yards on the ground, giving him 2,497 rushing yards in 13 games, along with the conference championship. The reason that we're talking about these Heisman Trophy runner-up like this is because he has an opportunity to do what hasn't been done since 1988, which is take the single-season rushing record. That record belongs to Barry Sanders, who rushed for 2,628 yards in 11 games for the Oklahoma State Cowboys in the Big 8. This season, we're probably going to get to see Ashton Janty get over that number if he can get to 132 yards. Gets to 132, it's his record from here on out. We don't count Barry Sanders' bowl game stats, for which he went for 226 yards. But while we are not going to just harp on that statistic, I do think it is worth pointing out that there have been at least 2 other men who have rushed for 2,500 yards in the course of a season since Barry Sanders did. And they didn't win the Heisman Trophy either, and they were not seen as the best players in college football. As a matter of fact, running backs coach at Ole Miss, Kevin Smith, rushed for over 2,500 yards at Central Florida. When you're comparing Ashton Janty's numbers to Barry Sanders, to Kevin Smith, to Derrick Henry, to any of the great tailbacks of the last 3 decades, you're really comparing apples and oranges, right? The Mountain West is not the toughest league in the country. It's not even one of the 3 toughest leagues in the country. That is not to take away from what Ashton has done, and frankly, what Boise State still might be able to do. Like Penn State, Boise State has not really beaten a team that we think is any good. However, both of these programs played Oregon to 1-score losses. Something that we expected from Penn State in the Big Ten championship game, but it's not necessarily something we expected from Boise State to open the season. Now, Oregon got to be a much better football team, we think, over the course of the year, and that is why they're the only undefeated team left in a division full of 134 teams. However, the reason that Boise State got this high seed is because they're a conference champion. And the rules state that the 4 highest-ranked conference champions get the 4 bye weeks. We can make some argument about whether or not Arizona State and Boise State would be there otherwise. We could even have an argument about whether or not Arizona State should be in the 3 spot and Boise State should be in the 4 spot. As it is, though, the Broncos are going to pick up a Penn State team that has everything to play for and everything to prove, not unlike them. Both of these programs need to win a national championship to validate the success of this season. I realize that if you're a Boise State fan, you're happy to be here. You're probably going to leave with the single-season rushing champion, the Heisman Trophy runner-up, and a Mountain West championship. But for the way that Ashton Janty was comporting himself after finding out that Travis Hunter won the Heisman Trophy, to have the sour grapes he did, okay, you think you're the best player in the country. You think you should win the Heisman Trophy. Heisman Trophy winner should take that team to the national championship. Travis Hunter doesn't have that opportunity. He's not even in this playoff. You do. And you're playing in the Fiesta Bowl as the home team against a top 10 team, a team that has been in the top 4, top 5 for most of the season. Their losses are to good football teams, Ohio State and Oregon. However, Unless you're ranked inside the top 5, and Boise State is not. They're ranked number 9. They are the 3 seed. Penn State has made light work of you, and they've been able to do it without much in the way of an offense. If you took a look at the game that Penn State played against Southern Methodist, it's how I kind of sort of expect this game to go against Boise State. I don't think it's going to be that lopsided, but when you looked at what Abdul Carter was able to do off the edge, what Kobe King was able to do in tackling, and what Tony Rojas was able to do when the ball was in the air, it's easy to see how Tom Allen's defense ought to have the measure of a Boise State offense that is going to be forced to be one-dimensional. The one thing that you are not going to allow is Ashton Janty to beat you. You're going to ask Maddox Madsen, quarterback, Cam Camper, wide receiver, and Matt Lauder, tight end, to make this happen for you. You want the guy that's got 55 catches for 834 yards to beat you, and the guy that's got 543 yards receiving to beat you, the guy that's got 2,700 passing yards to beat you. You don't want the guy that's walking in with 24.97 to beat you. You're just going to load the box and say, we're going to take what we can get, and if Maddox Madsen is that good, we'll take it up there. On the other side, it's on Andy Kotelnicki to find out what the hell is going on in their passing game. Because while Drew Aller didn't need to do much, 127 yards, then you could go with Ethan Grunkermeyer at the end, he hasn't had to do much at all, period. I've yet to see this team reach the potential that everybody claims that it has and be able to score in the way that it can score. Now, from the passing game, I will say that the numbers that they put up against Oregon should not be pushed aside as easily as it feels like I just did. I'm still waiting on the Drew Aller experience. I'm still waiting on the 5-star quarterback to go win me a football game, as opposed to Katron Allen and Nick Singleton saying, okay, we'll do it ourselves, or Tyler Warren doing the same. Anytime that I can take my quarterback from behind center and feel okay about it, that quarterback is not the best player on my team. It's probably not the 3rd best player on my team. And that's true over at Penn State. Now, I also think that's how James Franklin wants it. I think he's built a football team that is reliant on its offensive line to get the running backs to the second level, and then the running backs to do running back stuff, because that's what you have the ball for, is to get to the second level, and then you got to make it happen. That's on you. They get you the hole, you go through it, and then you score us a touchdown. On the other hand, if you're Drew Aller, I'm putting the ball in your hands not to scramble out of the pocket. You'll have to do that, and that's great that you do. But you're going to have to hit dudes downfield. Show me that you can hit Trey Wallace in the open field to give him an opportunity to make a play after the catch. Tyler Warren, mostly, I think, was dependent on Drew Aller for service. And then when they find out that the dude couldn't actually get the guy service all the time, they said, hell, we'll just put him back at quarterback and we'll ask him to run it himself. And that's what they did. I think it's really simple. Penn State is the more talented football team. Boise State has one supreme talent that other people missed. What you are going to find out is whether or not the Broncos are greater than the sum of their parts, meaning they're greater than just what Ashton Janty can do and what Madsen can do on play action, but that the defense itself is going to be able to give Penn State as much a problem as anybody else. That was something else that Southern Methodist just couldn't do. Now, they were put behind the 8 ball very quickly by their quarterback. Kevin Jennings threw 2 pick-sixes and 3 interceptions in the first half. I mean, we're talking about a Penn State defense that not only came to play, but was able to give the ball to an offense that was able to cash in. They scored 21 points off of turnovers. SMU have given up all of 31 points off of turnovers in the previous 12 games. As we talk about who Ashton Janty is and how we are going to write this season after it ends, I think this is going to be yet another inflection point, because it could be another dud when it comes to these, shall we say, blue blood programs or high-powered programs that we know are really talented versus the upstarts like Indiana, like SMU, and like Boise State. A poor showing by Boise State probably hurts them in the College Football Playoff Selection Committee next year and the year after, because you're already getting a loud conversation around what is your strength of schedule? What is your strength of record? For which I want us to settle on one definition and one definition for the entire season. I don't like writing off a team that was ranked in the first half of the season that's not ranked in the second half of the season because we thought they were good and they were not. Florida State being a prime example of that. Florida State goes from being a top 10 team in the AP to one of the worst teams in football the next year. We don't see swings like that in this sport, but in the age of name, image, and likeness and the transfer portal and media access, you're going to see more of those. You're going to see more upstarts. You're going to see more Indianas, more teams that go from winning 9 games in the previous 3 years to 11-2 and being called a fraud at the end. That's how this is going to go. I think Boise State needs to make this a one-score game to make everybody feel okay about them getting the seeding. But if Penn State runs through them the way that Penn State ran through SMU, it ain't just going to be the College Football Playoff Selection Committee that is going to be at issue here. It is going to be, how do we do this playoff with the group of 5 conferences when we know they're just not as competitive, not as tough, not as good as these other teams in the SEC, in the Big Ten, and frankly, in the Big 12 and the ACC as well. But we'll get to that at a later date. For time being, bottle up Ashton Janty. That's your job if you're Penn State. You do that, you ought to win. These games for me come down to not just got the better defense, but who has a greater margin for error. And Penn State has greater margin for error than Boise State does, simply because they're more talented at every other position. Running back, cool. They got it. It's all right. But we got a K-Tron out and Nick Singleton. We're okay over here. Everybody else, we think we like our chances head up on a neutral site. This ain't Boise, okay? This ain't home for you. This ain't UNLV. It's Penn State.